Hey friends, I was looking through some of the documents in Into the Weeds Google Drive and come across one that I hadn't seen before, and it has some details that were new to me. They may not be new to all y'all. Someone else may have covered them and I just haven't heard of it, but I thought it would be interesting to take a look. So let's take a look, y'all. Okay, this is a written report from Charles Goldhammer. Date on it, I believe, is June 15th, 2015, the date of the arrest. Someone else. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Okay, it says, I am the resident at the above address. I give law enforcement permission to enter. My mother, Janice Goldhammer, owns the house. I reside there and pay the bills. Then it says, I currently live at the above address with my wife, Stephanie, and my son, Blank, and my stepson, Nicholas Godejohn. The house belongs to my mother and I rent from her. We have lived there for the past year. About 5 months ago, I saw that Nick was getting mail from someone named Gypsy in Missouri. He got some letters and a few packages. I know that Nick talked to a girl named Gypsy on the computer on Facebook, I think. Nick doesn't talk with me much, but I know he talks to his mom. In March, Nick talked to Stephanie about going down to Missouri to meet Gypsy. Stephanie was concerned about Nick going down by himself because Gypsy's mom was supposedly protective and possessive. I offered to drive Nick down to Missouri. That way I could meet her too. Nick agreed, and I drove Nick to Missouri, and my son, Blank, came. I don't know if that says along or back. I don't remember the date, but we left on a Tuesday and stayed at a Days Inn in a city west of St. Louis. Probably Fenton. Anyway, back to the report. I'm not sure of the exact name of the town. I thought he was going to meet her on a Wednesday at a movie. Nick told me that plans had changed and he was going to meet her on Friday. I got mad because I couldn't stay that long. I helped Nick make arrangements to take a bus back to Wisconsin, and then I drove back home with Blank. The bus brought him back, and I picked him up in Waukesha. Since then, I know that Nick and Gypsy stay in contact on the computer, Facebook, I think. On Wednesday, June 11th, in late morning, a taxi showed up in our driveway and Nick went out to take the taxi and left. Stephanie called him on his cell phone and found out that he had planned on taking the cab to the Greyhound bus station in Milwaukee and then a bus to Missouri. She told him to come back. We could give him a ride to the bus station. He came back and we paid the cab. I did not know that. I didn't know he came back and they paid the cab. And then they drove him to the bus station. Charles Goldhammer says, I then drove Nick to Milwaukee. He told me he was going to bring Gypsy back up with him. I told him to keep in constant contact, and he told me he was coming back. I think that says Thursday. I can't quite tell. He didn't keep in touch, and Stephanie and I had to call him to keep in touch. He told us that he wouldn't be back on Thursday, or is that Tuesday? Can't tell. And that they had to wait until Friday because Gypsy did not have a ticket. I thought that was strange because she had supposedly supplied the bus tickets for Nick. Breaking in here to say, yeah, I really think Gypsy planned to go somewhere else. Maybe with Dan, most likely with Dan, but maybe she thought she would take off to Louisiana to her family. I don't know, but I really don't think she had any intention of going back with Nick until something went wrong and then they had to, which honestly, that would lean more towards her plan being with Dan, because if Dan was like, oh, hell no, I don't want to be part of this, and took off, that would explain why they suddenly had to get a ticket for her and her go. If her plan was to get a bus ticket for herself and go to Louisiana with her family, then that wouldn't have, I don't see how that would have been suddenly disrupted. Unless we find out something else. You never know. We're always learning new facts in this case, friends. Okay, back to the narrative. Nick and Gypsy got back on Saturday, June 13th at 2 a.m. Stephanie picked them up in Milwaukee as I was working. I got home from work at 7:20 a.m. and I met Gypsy later that morning, about 11 a.m. when Nick introduced her. She seemed very nice and seemed happy. I really didn't talk to her much. For the rest of the weekend, Gypsy and Nick mostly stayed upstairs in his room. They did come downstairs to the kitchen a few times, and she cooked for him. She seemed happy. They seemed happy together and acted sort of giddy, like a brand new boyfriend and girlfriend do. I last saw Gypsy on Sunday night, Monday morning, about 1 a.m. when she came downstairs to use the bathroom. She wears a wig, but it wasn't on when she came down. This morning, the police came to our house and we got taken away. So that is the end of his narrative, friends. There's more there that I'm going to record later. But like I said, my allergies are crazy. So I'm going to stop here. We'll go out with a little palate cleanser. Let me know what you think in the comments. Were there any new details in there for y'all that you didn't know? I didn't understand just how many times they actually drove him down and stuff into Missouri, even though they didn't get all the way there and that type of thing, and their own confusion about Gypsy's bus ticket back. What do y'all think, friends? Let me know in the comments and have a good day.